y'all? It's your girl Stephanie. It's Wrestling Color Podcast right here on YouTube. Make sure you thumbs up the video. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks to all the subscribers that are sticking around and understanding that I got shit going on, and I'm dipping it out as much as I can until I get situated with my moving. Had a little setback, but that doesn't stop nothing. Make sure you follow me on Pinterest and Instagram if I didn't say that. I'm a little bit tipsy, I'm not gonna lie. Get into all of my content. Go back, re-listen, get to know me, whatever you need to do. And make sure you subscribe. And hit me in the comments. I love talking to you guys. So what are we here for? You see the picture. So the Undertaker was recently on a podcast called True Geordie Podcast. It's some British dude. I know it's a British guy. And he had made a comment. The reason why I came to listen to the podcast, let me say that, because I'm not listening to True Geordie, but he got 1.97 million subscribers, so apparently he's popular. So the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, was on his podcast and he was speaking about stuff. And it was two things that I took away from his podcast. And we're going to talk about those two things specifically. First, it's him trying to reconnect and be the father that he said he was not able to be because of his wrestling career. Listen.
How did that impact your personal life?
Yeah, so that's tough, man. There was I can safely say there was an 8-year stretch where I averaged over 250 dates a year on the road. And as you can imagine, you know, and you're so wrapped up in it, and I'm so wrapped up in this character. Like, I can't just come home. Like, we would be out 40 days. I'd come home for 5. At the beginning of the 3rd day off, I'm ready to go. I mean, I'm just conditioned to always be on the go. And, you know, I wasn't tuned in, you know, to my wife at the time. And probably one of the biggest, you know, negative aspects of it, you know, was my oldest son. You know, I missed him growing up. You know, and it's you know, I wish I could have been a better man and figured that out. But you know, and I've heard Austin talk about this as well. You can't. I shouldn't say can't, but it's just hard to be that guy and not be that guy all the time. It's hard to shut it down. You know, the worst thing back then, you know, like you get going and you have this momentum and you get hurt. Then that would drive us absolutely insane, because you know somebody else is coming up. Somebody else is going to want your spot, so you're rehabbing like crazy. And all this time where you have time to spend with your family and do things, the only thing that you're thinking about is getting healthy enough so that I can get back out there, reclaim my spot, and go on and do this. And so that's you know, my relationship with my kids early, you know, my older kids, you know, they had to pay, you know, a sacrifice for me to do and become what I am. And, you know, you can't look back. You learn from your mistakes. I was fortunate enough, you know, that I remarried Michelle and I. We have now we have young children. So I was blessed enough to get a second chance to be a dad and be a husband, but I had no business. I had no business being married
at that time,
and trying to build this character and this legacy. It's just it's really difficult to do.
So that's something I listened to, and I find it fascinating that he spoke on that, and that's great. I don't think his choice of words saying the kids made a sacrifice. No, you forced them to sacrifice having a full-time dad because you were so deep into this wrestling business. I think it's very interesting, and that's a lot of them, because even Stone Cold has daughters and kids that a lot of people don't even realize, and I believe he was estranged from them. I don't know what their relationship is now, but they wasn't fucking with Stone Cold like that. And I know it's got to be difficult to be older kids and see that he, has a wife and younger kids now, and the younger kids get to have a dad that the older kids didn't get to have. And I know that's difficult, and people want you to move forward and don't think about the past, but the past literally shapes your future. And people need to understand, when you have children, you need to know, as a parent, and I'm a parent, you need to know what you do affects your kids. And they are watching you from the time they come out the womb. They are very aware of their surroundings. Kids are people too. I understand everyone talks about fuck these kids and all this. It's really bizarre how people just dismiss children as if they're not human beings. The society treats animals better than they treat children. There honestly should be a children's bill of rights. And I'm not going to get into that because I'm a social worker, and I'm working with these kids right now who are abused, and they are abusers, and we trying to, get these kids to not end up in jail. And it's because parents just don't understand that what you do has an impact on every fucking body around you. Now his kids are older. He ain't got no relationship, so now you got to try to build a relationship with grown ass people because you were so focused on your career. And this is where I'm gonna go into, we do it so you don't have to. Kind of like when there's inclement weather, when there's like a snowstorm or something like that, and school's closed. I don't give a fuck because I'm not sending my kid to school in a snowstorm. But there's parents like, oh, well, when I was younger, I had to walk 18 miles in a blizzard. You did that so your children don't have to. That is the whole point of history. This point in history happened so the future doesn't have to deal with it. Hence why we still deal with social economic issues. We still deal with class issues, race issues, and so on and so forth. And we still got people trying to legislate out certain things because they don't want their kids to be subjected to it. Meanwhile, years and years, you subjected other people to your bullshit. And I'm going to tell you now, all these bills they passing, this don't say gay, this don't talk about race, this don't talk about sex, it's going to backfire. It always does. You know why? Because we've been here before. We've been here before. So what's the second thing that Mark Calloway said that just grinded my fucking gears? And there was so much irony in what he said, especially after just talking about his kids and family and second chances. Let's listen.
Described the locker room in the Attitude Era and how things would be settled in an old school way, and sometimes people would look to you to be the guy to pull people in line. And it made me wonder, I look at this generation, the modern generation, a bit of a snowflake generation. I wondered if you look back at the old days and now look at the new school and think, things have changed a little bit. And if so, how have they changed?
Before we get into his answer, this guy asking this question, he's British. I already know his politics simply from that use of the word snowflake. And this whole boys network that these white men want to keep intact is so fucking bizarre to me. Now, he asked him this question. I'm going to let y'all listen to the answer. But the fact that he asked this question and he ended up getting an answer that fucking contradicted Undertaker, made him look like an old head, just yang. It's just so fucking annoying. This isn't the 70s. This isn't the 80s. The locker room has changed. It does not mean you could run up on somebody like Xavier Woods, and because he played video games, he's not going to beat your fucking ass. Seth Rollins plays video games too, and he still handled the dude that ran up on him not too long ago at the show. These guys have families. These guys have lives. And they don't want to be doing the bullshit that they used to do in the 70s and 80s. I'm going to let y'all listen to what Undertaker had to say about it.
Have changed, and I can't just say that it's changed in the wrestling. I think in all sports, it's a different generation. I mean, it's just call it evolution if you want. One, I don't think the guys are leading the same lifestyles that guys in the past did. One, they can't, because everything that they do, there's somebody somewhere doing that. I mean, it's just, so I feel bad for them, because a lot of times they can't go off and blow off steam somewhere after they work, because they're constantly under some type of surveillance from people. Where I didn't have to worry about that, right? Because there wasn't cell phones and all that. When I came up, it was the locker room was a lot different. It was pretty crusty. You drove everywhere, right? You didn't fly very often. So there were guys that had, there were a few guys that had knives in their bags, guns in their bags. It was a different group of men. I'm not saying one's better or one's worse, but they just had a different way of settling things, right? Like, if there was a disagreement, they go into the shower, and that's where everything got handled, right? Either you discussed it, you come to agreement, or you threw down, or just like what happened to Brody over in Puerto Rico. I mean, he got stabbed and he died, over a disagreement. So.
It's pretty serious shit, that.
Yeah. I just want to pause that because he's going to keep going. So this guy, Mark Calloway, used Brody, who got stabbed in Puerto Rico, and he has a dark side of the ring episode. You want to get deeper into why he got stabbed because of a disagreement, and he's saying that's how people handle shit, and he's saying it like it's just it's like two people arguing, walking away. And now this guy that asked this fucking stupid ass question is like, well, that's serious, don't you think? This is the thought process. He's 60 years old. Why the fuck would you think the generation would be the same from a 60-year-old perspective? Like, let's use our brains when you interview these people. Let's keep going.
Oh yeah, man. It was. I mean, and that was common. Fair. I mean, not to that degree, but there was a lot of that happened back in the day. It was when I'm breaking in. I'm talking about the late 80s and even before. Those guys didn't put up with any kind of crap, right? And weren't afraid, to call somebody out. I think today's athlete is just that. They're athletes.
Good.
They've been trained to do this, and I don't think they have this. I'm sure there's some, but I don't think they have the same bad habits that a lot of us had.
I feel like some of them are lacking that grit though that you guys had. Like, you guys were believable bad motherfuckers, whereas now, like, yeah, some of them have got the muscles and all of that, but they don't have the character that you could tell. Some of you guys have done horrible jobs and had that mean streak, that working class thing about you. Whereas now, if you manufacture a star and just try and put them and make everyone like them, it just sometimes doesn't click. And I think that's partly why you just don't have as many stars these days. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
I'm gonna pause there before we get to what Undertaker said that really is. First of all, for Gordy, or Jordy, however his name's pronounced, this grit. These men did drugs, they beat their wives, they killed people, they stabbed people, they were mean and nasty. Shawn Michaels got his ass beaten in the bar fight. Undertaker didn't walk out and become a superstar. It took Undertaker like 4 years to get that gimmick over, okay? Let's just be honest about that. Number one. Okay? That wasn't some shit everybody was like, oh yeah, dead man walking. Everybody was like, the fuck? You know how I know? Because I was watching him. I was like, what? And Paul Bearer. all that shit had to get over. And it wasn't because he was working in a steel mill. It's because he had to get the character over the best way he could. Why they acting like the motherfucker woke up and just threw the character and it was the best thing smoking? He's manufactured just like everybody else. Do you think Hulk Hogan was not manufactured? When somebody said, well, you don't like Hulk Hogan, you don't like Terry Bollea, but you like Hulk Hogan. I don't like either because it's the same motherfucker. But that's manufactured. That's what sold toys. That's what got him in the Hall of Fame. This motherfucker didn't wake up and say he's gonna be the Undertaker. He was 5 different things before he was the Undertaker. Did this guy do any kind of research before he asked these stupid fucking questions? Probably not. Because he thinks guys now don't have grit and they're snowflakes because they not stabbing motherfuckers and punching each other butt naked in the shower to get over simple issues at the workplace. Sure. Let's continue.
No. That was actually going to be the thing about grit. Was going to be the next sentence out of my mouth.
Oh, right.
It is. I feel like there is a level of grit that is missing from today's product, and and I don't know that it's anybody's fault. We all aged out, right? And so that new group has come up, but it to your point though, when you watch Brock wrestle, you're interested, like, because I mean, he's got this background not only as an amateur wrestler, professional wrestler, mixed martial artist. Brock doesn't do a bunch of crazy.
Brock Lesnar is an athlete, and Undertaker was just saying these guys are regular guys. These are athletes. Brock Lesnar is an athlete. That's why he's a multi-talented. He did MMA. He was a professional wrestler on a collegiate level. He's a pro wrestler. He likes chopping meat. He's an athlete. If he's an athlete, he is easy to mold. Hello, where's these guys' brains?
Moves. Brock manhandles your ass.
Yep.
You get in there and you get thrown around and you get smashed.
Yeah.
And even Roman has a little bit of that to him. And when he wants to, Randy has that to him when he wants to. But a lot of the younger talent, it's that it's the evolution of that comic book era, the superhero era.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they drive. That's what's their motivation, and that's what their inspiration is. And they didn't have to, they didn't have to come up and bust heads in bars and figure out how they're going to eat and things like that.
And that's good. What is the problem? Why do you want these younger athletes, these 20... this is 30 years removed from WWE's heyday. 40 years. Why do you want athletes 40 years removed from WWE's heyday to be not knowing where they're going to get a fucking meal in 2022? Why do you want them to not... First of all, the thing is, Undertaker's not into comic books. Undertaker's not into video games. Comic books and video games literally were a thing when Undertaker was being Undertaker. Okay? Nintendo comic books, Thundercats, motherfucking He-Man, She-Ra, G.I. Joe, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was he was a superhero to a lot of people. I don't understand what he's talking about. It's because he's not into this shit. He thinks it's a joke. Everybody's soft because motherfuckers want to play video games instead of go to bars and get their shit knocked loose. I.e., fucking Shawn Michaels almost getting murdered in a bar because he's talking shit because he thinks he's a wrestler and he didn't realize who he was dealing with. I don't understand Undertaker's thought process. I really don't. Let's finish it up.
And, good or bad,
it's ironic that they're pushing towards that comic book era now, because the title holder is Brock Lesnar, and the other guy obviously is Roman, who's holding the other title. Sorry, so the two guys at the top are the ones who are doing it differently. like similar to you did back in the day. And so if I'm one of those superstars, I'm thinking, I need to do that. I need to be more tough, and that's what people respond to. They don't. The wrestling fans don't need to be patronised. They just need it to be believable. It's no different to watching a movie, and I think that's what obviously you did so well, because who the hell wants to fight a 7-foot guy looking like you? You know,
Right.
we didn't need it to be real. It needed to look real. And you talk about Brock Lesnar. What you basically made his career. You know, they were building him up, and he had that big feud with you before he went off and became the MMA guy. But you gave him such a push. What did it feel like to get in the ring with this guy, because he looks hella intimidating, but also then watch him take all that juice and go to the UFC?
It was fun watching his ascent. It was fun being in the ring, because Brock, especially his first time through, he defied. You look at him and you think there's.
So that was it. I didn't care for this interviewer, but I'm not shocked, because if you look at him, you wouldn't be shocked by these questions either. I just think, and I'm going to say this, there is no comic book being pushed in the WWE. I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. Outside of Ricochet, I don't know who else is a comic book character. Number one. Number two, these guys are doing what Bruce Pritchard, Vince McMahon, or whoever else produces is telling them to do. Just like a fucking movie. Okay? So I don't know what he's talking about. Someone told Undertaker what to fucking do. He didn't walk in there and say, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to walk slow and put my hand up and look. Ain't nobody told him that. Ain't nobody told him that. I think this whole, they soft, they play video games. WWE isn't even what WWE was in the 80s, 90s, and 70s and stuff. The tits and ass, the going. I used to the suck it and the nasty, the sexism, the racism, all that's on display. We don't have to deal with it. I seen it, so somebody else don't got to see it. They don't have to do that no more to get somebody over. You know, that's why Ali's not there. You don't have to be the big bad Muslim guy to make Americans feel good. Okay? You don't have to have the Russian talking shit to Americans, Lana and Rusev. You don't have to do that. Even though they're inching back to that shit with Lacey Evans coming up and the Gunther and them, I'm telling you right now, USA champs will be pumping when Gunther and them come and start wrestling regular. Because it's an easy formula, it's an easy thing to do. And what Vince and them wants, they want pops, they want people excited, they want to make it seem like they're doing fantastic shit, and they're not. Undertaker was not hitting for about 3-4 years. So I don't even know why he's talking like his shit was popping from the moment he stepped foot in the spotlights like the Undertaker. Paul Bearer was there for a reason. It wasn't because he got charisma. He was paired up with Kane. It wasn't because he got charisma. Because Mark Calloway doesn't have fucking charisma. Hence, The Undertaker. So, that was just it. It was just two things I thought was just ridiculous. You call these guys soft and they didn't. You literally just said you could not be with your family because you were so enthralled in the character and you wish you could do something different. I bet if Mark Calloway came along now, he would love what these guys are doing, that he would be able to be with his family. You got Becky Lynch able to raise her daughter. You got Seth Rollins in his daughter's life. You got couples, Naomi and Jimmy. You got Bianca and Montez and all these people. Oh, you got couples traveling together to keep their marriages intact. And if somebody get pregnant, you just take the day off, do what you got to do, and go have babies and come back like Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch and all these people. He's sitting here talking shit. His time's done. He's over. He's been indoctrinated to the Hall of Fame. If he had the opportunity to do it like the guys are doing it now, I guarantee you he would. And he can sit there and say what he wants. But then he's also a MAGA head, so he might not. He probably wants to go through the fucking trials and tribulations because for whatever reason, there's a group of people that think the harder shit is to get, the more it's worth. When the whole point is to work smarter, not harder. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments, and I'll hit y'all up later. All right.